Today we're really cooking on JTV. We're cooking chocolate cake. We've mixed up a special recipe, a permanent botanical recipe for you right here from our friends at Design Master and Styrofoam. A chocolate cake with cherries that looks good enough to eat. So let's start cooking. Now, for our special chocolate cake, we're going to need cake dummies. These are pieces of styrofoam that actually are the same size as cakes. But we don't need to use all that styrofoam. We can slip a wreath ring underneath. And conveniently, they're the same size as the cake dummies that are available. So this is going to form the basis for our cake. We're simply going to apply a little bit of hot glue to this to help bind them together. So I grab a little bit of my hot glue. Remember, we want it about the consistency of taffy. So about 220 degrees or so is really good. We're going to paint a little bit of it on here, and we're going to use a little bit more than normal and put it towards the edge. Then we're going to apply that here and push down. Now, what's really cool about that is it starts to come out between the cake pieces so that it looks like frosting. And we'll do that with this piece down here as well. Now remember, just on the edge, because we have a wreath ring down below, there's no sense in wasting our glue by putting it in the middle. And again, pushing down on that. Then we can place these two pieces together. Now, if we wanted to force a little more room for a little more decorative accessories, we could move this back a little bit and bump it back. Or we can place it directly in the center. Whatever suits you. It's your cake and you're the baker. So, a little bit more glue. Everybody's always really concerned that the glue itself is yellow. That's because we're working with these little pillows of hot melt glue. The cool part about them is that there's a heat-activated adhesive along with the regular plastic that melts down. So when we've got it melted, it's binding these pieces together two ways. So there's our cake, hollow on the inside if we need it to be. All right. Now, applying our glue coating over the top, or frosting it. Simply want our glue to be about 220 degrees again. We want it to be a good quantity, a good thickness, and we're going to pour it on top of our cake. Then we can use our paintbrush to spread that around. That gives us a great surface. Now, one of the things that's important too, we don't want our glue too hot. If it's too hot, it'll start to melt the styrofoam. We'll pour a little bit more along the edge so that we start to get real good running glue. Now, one of the things that's important about this is not to rush it. Just like when you're baking a cake, you want to make sure that you're taking time to create this. And you're going to see that the glue casually drips down the side and actually starts to look like real frosting. That's the important part. If it's too hot and you're doing it too quick, you're going to start to have trouble, like the bubbles in the glue itself or actually physically melting the styrofoam underneath. Plus, it's time for me to melt down some more glue so that I could do the second layer. It would also be great to position this on a piece of cellophane so that I would be able to tear it off once the glue puddles up at the bottom. That's important. So put it on a good surface or a clean surface that you can knock it off of. The other nice thing too is if you have it on cellophane, it can go into your refrigerator to cool it down really fast, and that makes it pull away from the cellophane back really easily. So that's kind of what this guy looks like. Don't forget that we can use other shapes as well. So if I wanted to use this would be like a big monster piece of cake or a giant brownie. We can use little squares and create little pedophores. We can use little tiny discs and make little torts if we want to. We've got all those different options. Any shape that styrofoam makes can be turned into a cake form because that's what we want it to look like. We want it to look like chocolate cake. And the secret behind that is using our Design Master paint and the Styrofoam product itself. Oh, hear that? Our next cake's just about ready. Y'all wondered why I had a stove on JTV. That's exactly why. So this guy has been already taken care of. We've placed cherries on top. And it's very cool because it's simple. We can use any fruit that we like, and that's an interesting part. The fruit goes on while the glue's still wet. So, taking this cake top, we can place our cherries in the warm glue and create any pattern that we like. But it's simply attaching those directly to that. There's permanent botanical strawberries, there's permanent botanical raspberries, there's permanent botanical cherries. Any type of fruit will work, even clusters of permanent botanical grapes. But remember, they have to be artificial because you don't want them to be fresh. Wouldn't work out for your cake to last for a long time. We're creating a prop here. So, now comes the easy part. And everybody thinks that this is the hardest part, but this is where it gets really cool. They all wonder how you keep the paint away from those cherries. We're going to use October Brown from Design Master. We're going to turn our nozzle towards the dot. We'll shake it up, and then we're going to start to spray the cake. I'm going to notice that I'm going to go really close. This is converse to how I would normally paint fresh flowers, because we talk about the paint coming out at a freezing temperature for fresh flowers. Since this is all permanent, we don't have to worry about that. Plus, it keeps our overspray to a minimum. Notice how the paint just goes around the cherries themselves. As long as I stay really close, that's the secret. Also notice that I'm really coating that styrofoam, and as I coat that styrofoam, it starts to eat away just a tiny bit at it and makes it look like fresh, moist cake. You know, the devil's in the details. So it takes a while to do this, and make sure that you have plenty of time to do it. You also want to make sure that you're spraying in a well-ventilated area as well. I can pick it up using the cherry stems and turn it around so you can start to see what we're getting. And we'll spin it a little bit more. Okay. Let's just turn it around one more time to make sure I don't have any spots. Now, that looks like a perfectly glossed cake, and it's wonderful. If we wanted to give it a clear coat, we could put some clear finish over the top. Design Master makes a real great clear finish that can go over the top and give it a real sheen. Or you can let it be like milk chocolate and let it have a matte finish as well. But you know what? We're never done at JTV because we want to do a little more to make it look even more realistic. That's where t-shirt paint comes into play. Grabbed a little bit of t-shirt paint, and I've got the shiny ivory color. It's going to look like frosting. What we're going to do is we're just going to take this and we're going to drizzle it over the top. Just back and forth. Now that allows us to have a very cool icing coat that goes over the top. It's almost like a German torte, and a great way for us to utilize the product. You'll notice that the two cakes are a little bit different. The first one, we doubled up the cake dummies to make a thicker, taller cake. In this case, we stacked the cake dummies on top of one another to create the form. Like I said, we can make any shape we want to, and all the creativity is up to you because you learn the secrets here at JTV. So now we can add a little bit of ribbon and a little bit of our permanent botanical ivy. I'll grab my nippers. It's just like using real ivy because we can stick it directly into the cake. We're just going to add a couple accent pieces. Just to make it a little more decorative, and then a little bit of ribbon. My ribbon scissors, and my trusty chopstick. Remember in season 1 how we talked about using ribbon when we made the faux hand-tied bouquet? And we simply take our chopstick and insert it directly into the styrofoam. That way, we don't have to worry about picking it in or using anything else. It simply becomes its own mechanic. Voila! Here's our chocolate cake, and it looks good enough to eat. But we can use it as a decorative accessory, whether we want to put it on a cake plate or just set it in a bakery window. That would be fun too. But we want it to smell like a real cake too. So if you want to do that, take a couple drops of vanilla extract and place it on top of the cake. That's going to give it a natural fragrance as well. So what did we learn today? Well, number 1, who would have thought that styrofoam, glue, and paint could look so delicious? And you know what? The secret is Design Master and October Brown. I've been making these cakes for a long time, and they're all kinds of fun. You can experiment. You can create new things. Think about a coconut cake. Maybe we use moss coat and spray it ivory. There's a lot of different things that you can think about, and you can be creative from the secrets you learn here at JTV. I also want to thank our friends at Design Master because they did such a great job with the great colors that they always give us. And I want you to start thinking outside the box, even if it is the cake box. So, until then, don't forget the fun.